Hi, I'm Opal Mitchell. I work for the Central Arkansas Library System and I work at the Nixon branch in Jacksonville. And this is the Crafting with Opal program that I do on Thursdays at 4. This month we are switching this to where it's going to be an every other Thursday program instead of one that we do every Thursday. So we'll only be doing one today, and then 2 weeks from now we'll do another Crafting with Opal program, and the one that's 2 weeks from now will be a sewing craft, and that one you'll be able to sign up to get supplies for that one the Friday before that Thursday, but I'll talk about that again at the end of this program. But today I'm going to be showing you how to make a soy candle. And this is the example of the one that I did. I wanted to point out I put too much wax in this. There's a line right here. I should have only filled it to there, but you're only supposed to leave an inch from the top of your candle when you're making one. So I made a mistake on that one, so it's not a good idea to do that. I read that after I made the candle, so that's one thing to keep in mind. This is a fairly simple craft. I enjoyed doing it. It didn't take me that long to do it. And if you signed up for supplies, what you would have, or what you received from the library was a large mason jar, some soy candle wax, and I put that in a plastic bag. I just went ahead and dumped it in here for now. And the way I measured this to figure out how much candle wax I needed for this particular size candle holder is I filled this up twice and dumped it in here, which is going to be more than what you need, but I wanted to make sure you had enough. So you just kind of double it to make sure you got enough for the actual container you're going to be putting it in. And the other items you received were, this is the little wooden stick with a hole in the middle that helps hold your wick in place. You also got a little sticker that's for holding your wick in place. So when you're putting this all together, take the sticker and put it on the end, the metal end of your wick, and then stick it in the center of your jar or container that you're going to be putting it in. Then you're going to put the little stick over the top of the wick, like so, and that's going to help you keep it centered once you pour your wax into it. So that's some of the items you would have received. You also will have a little small vial of essential oil, and if some of you may wonder what scent you got, I went ahead and wrote it down, and so I'll kind of read off some of these. So if you're wondering which one you got, if there's an L on it, you got lavender. They're kind of self-explanatory. If you got one that has an R on it, then you got a rose scent. O for orange. There was someone that got lemon, so that one's LE. And then if you have vanilla, I put a V on it. And cedar, I put CD for cedar, because there's some other things that have a C that starts with a C that I gave out. Peppermint has a P. Rosemary has a RM. Cinnamon, I put CM on it. And frankincense, I put a F. And then I always have trouble pronouncing this one. The one that has the B, it's a type of flower. I'm going to spell it because I'm horrible. I really mess up the pronunciations of things, but it's Bergamot. And I think that was about it. And sandalwood, someone got sandalwood, that was a S. And jasmine with a J. I think that was about it. Yeah. So if you were curious what scent you got, I'm trying to think. Oh, you also got 2 stir sticks. Be sure to tape them together because you're going to be stirring this large jar, and in order to not touch the edges while everything's heated, this will keep you from having to touch the edges of that jar. So be sure to tape that together. Some other things that you're going to need that we didn't provide. scissors. I think I forgot to put that on the list of things you'll need to provide. At the end, you'll have to cut the wick, so you'll need some scissors to cut that. Some hot pads or oven gloves would be nice, because you're going to be picking up this mason jar after all of the stuff is heated and mixed, and you're going to be pouring it into your candle holder, so it's going to be nice to have something to handle this with so you don't burn your hands. Having an extra one of these to put underneath your candle holder that you're going to be pouring your wax into. And keep in mind, this is kind of messy, so the things that you're using for this, I wouldn't use things that you maybe would use normally for cooking, because it is a bit messy. So unless you are going to be able to get all of that cleaned up off of it, but I still wouldn't do that. Paper towels and some water, and I have a very large pot that I'm going to be heating mine up in. The reason mine is so big is this is one I bought for dyeing yarn, so I needed a very large one for that. So some kind of pot that you're going to be putting as long as your pot is big enough for this to sit in the middle of it with filling water up around it, that any size like that would work fine. And of course a burner. You're going to need a burner, a stovetop, anything that you could be able to heat that up with. And I believe that's going to be everything. There was an optional thing that I didn't include was I've seen some of the candles that you can put dried flowers in them. I'm not sure how that would burn. So I guess you could try that if you wanted to. I saw some people doing that. I guess that would burn okay. I've never seen any candles like that before, but you could try it if you wanted to. So I think that's all the supplies. So I'm going to switch my camera around to where the pot is and the burner is at, and I'm actually going to have to move some of these supplies a little bit closer so that I won't be, and we are going to be adding the essential oils and the color while we're heating everything up, so you'll want to have that close by. So I'm going to move all of my stuff on that side, and I don't need that. And I'm going to keep my candle over on here because I can't get everything over there. So, and then I'm just going to keep my scissors on this side. So I'm going to switch everything around. And let's see here. I'm going to move this where you can see the pot that I'm going to be working with, and I might even scoot this forward because this is not going to hold. Please hold and don't fall, camera. Okay, so be sure to get your candle wax inside of your mason jar, and you're going to set that in the middle of your pot. And we will be putting the essential oil in first once we've heated it up and melted that. So I'm going to keep it closest to everything. Alright, and now I'm going to add my water. You may want to do this at the sink, but I've got a jug of water because our sink is not close by. And you're going to pour it in, and you're going to pour water until it goes just above the wax. You're only pouring it in the pot. You're not pouring it into the mason jar. I'm not real sure how well you can see this, that I'm doing this. So we're going to fill up the pot here. They said to fill it up and then put the jar in there, but I didn't know how you would know that you were filling it up above. So I'm looking down into my jar to make sure that my water is going above my wax. Let's see. Because we're doing this like a double boiler is what we're doing. Let's see. I'm going to put a little bit much. I think this countertop is not level. Okay, I believe that's good. So I'm going to move my water out of the way. And I'm going to turn my burner on and heat this up. Different waxes burn at or melt at different temperatures. I noticed when I was I'll move this over here a little bit better. I noticed when I was researching wax, different types of wax for this project, I'm going to try to get this, you can see a little bit better, that there's different ones that melt at different temperatures, and this is not going to hold. Come on. Please hold in place and don't fall forward. Okay, is that moving? It does not. Well, I guess this is a way to fiddle with this until my water starts boiling, because that's what we're going to be waiting on right now. Let's see. I think I got this where it won't move anymore. I don't want it to fall forward any more than that. Okay. I think that's going to work. So we're waiting on the water to boil, but I wanted to go over a few things while that's happening. Depending on the type of wax that you buy, there's different types of soy wax, there's beeswax, and different things that paraffin wax that you can buy to make candles with. And most of them I was looking at, you can add essential oils and wax dye for the colors to it. There's a lot of different ones that you can buy. The dyes that we bought, the library system, I got them off of Amazon, and that just happens to be the one that I got, and these are a mica powder that you can use. And then just be sure that whatever you buy is actually going to be meant for candles, because there's some dyes that are meant for other things. When you're picking out essential oils for candles, you have to be careful about those too, because you're burning it. One of the things with the essential oils is when I was looking on Amazon, there was a lot of things that came up when I looked for essential oils that were not essential oils. They were fragrant oils. Those are toxic if burned, so don't use fragrant oils in your candles. So be kind of careful about that. The essential oil one I got, let's see, I'll show you the brand. It was one that we could afford, and this is a nice box of different fragrances. You want to make sure it's 100% pure essential oil. Make sure that whatever you're getting is a good company too, because there's some of them that try to say that they're essential oils, but they're not 100% pure essential oil. And when you're burning stuff, you've got to make sure that that they are actually 100% pure essential oil. And be careful too if you have pets when it comes to burning essential oils, whether in candles or in those essential oil burners. Pets don't do well with some of the essential oils. I know for a fact that the eucalyptus essential oil is toxic to cats. I'm not sure if it's toxic to dogs. I haven't looked that one up, but I know there are some essential oils that can make your dogs and cats sick. So I would do some research on those before, if you've got pets in the home, before burning them. And let's see, am I getting any? It's heating up, but I'm going to turn it on high. I only had it on medium on the heat on my burner, so I want it to heat up a little bit faster than that. So because you want to get a little bit of a boil going, and that will actually start melting your wax. I'm trying to think, is there any other things I need to go over? Oh, wax is flammable, so that's another thing you need to be careful with when working on something like this. So if you have a flame on your stovetop when you're doing this, don't get the wax on the flame because it's flammable. And they said that if it does come in direct contact with heat or flame while you're doing this project, they said to also handle it like you would as far as, what was it? I thought I read where it said if you get it on there to, I guess, be sure to turn off your heat source, and because it could start a fire, so just be really careful. and it can be messy stirring all of this stuff. So getting a pot that's just for craft type things is probably a good idea. And for measuring things too, you probably want to make sure you have something that you're not going to use for food. Let me think. And also, whatever you're going to heat your wax in, it needs to be heat proof like a mason jar. So make sure that whatever you're using to heat the wax up in is something like a mason jar that's heat proof. And whatever you decide, I've seen some really cool things done with candles where they've put them in unusual items like teacups and, I don't know, wine glasses and different things like that. Those are all cute and everything, but make sure whatever you're pouring your wax into that you're going to have the candle in is heat proof. Wine glass is not going to be heat proof, so that would not be advisable. And cute teacup, I don't know. I'd be careful about that too. I know it holds hot coffee and stuff, but I don't know that it would necessarily be a good item to put a candle in. So just keep that in mind, because you don't, even some of the tins and stuff that I've seen that people put them in, make sure the tin is actually meant for like a candle or something like that, because you don't want to heat it up and then it burn your countertop. So be really careful about all that. But you can have fun with that and just find some, you could probably find some really cool things in flea markets that you could use as vessels for your candles if you wanted to be decorative with them. Let's see, I'm looking to see. My wax is starting to try to melt just a tiny bit, but my water is not boiling just yet. It really does melt quite fast once your water starts boiling. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of anything else I could cover, and unless anyone has any questions, which I don't believe anyone does. And I forgot my little microphone for my camera, so I'm hoping I'm standing close enough that you can hear me good. I usually use this little microphone whenever I'm recording, and I thought it was a pretty good, made me a little bit louder when I was talking, but okay. Did not realize the water was going to take quite this long to boil. At home it was faster because I've got a gas stove top, so, and this is such a thin pot that usually stuff heats up in it pretty quickly, but does not appear to be really. I could feel, yeah, I don't feel a whole lot of heat coming from that yet. I hope this doesn't take forever. I guess I could talk about the project for that's for 2 weeks from now. Since I'm not going to be doing this every week now, we're going to be doing it every other week, and we're going to be doing that from now on until at least the end of July. We'll be doing Crafting with Opal every other week at 4. And we will be providing supplies for each program too, like we have been. So be sure to always call and sign up for free supplies for these programs. I'm trying to think. I wish I had a picture of the sewing project we're doing next week, but it's called a grocery bag holder, and I'm sure some of you have seen those before. It's like it's made out of fabric. Oh, that's fun. It turned off because it thinks it's hot enough now. But it's not boiling. Yay. I hope the burner has not turned off. I see some steam coming from the water. Okay. Well, okay, came back on again. I should have known this was going to take a while. I probably should have prepped this and had it going before I started, but I didn't know it was going to be this slow. I can see some steam around there, but anyway, the grocery bag holder it's a fabric, like tubular shaped thing that you put your plastic bags in the top area of it that's open, and then you hang it from a wall or something, and then the bottom of it has a hole, but it's got elastic at the bottom, so it's kind of has a smaller hole at the bottom so you can pull your bags out of the bottom of it. So that's the project we're going to work on next week. It's so funny that this is shaking with... Alrighty. I think my wax is finally starting to really melt a little bit. Interesting. Maybe since I poured that while this was sitting in there, no water got underneath the mason jar very good. So it's making a slightly different noise now. It might actually melt better. Even though I don't really have boiling water just yet. But it is starting to boil just a little bit. Once it melts, the rest of this won't take any time at all, really. Because so if you're working on yours with me and yours is actually melting, once your water starts boiling, if you have a pot that's better than mine that's got a really thick bottom to it and it holds heat really well, I would probably advise turning the heat off of your burner or turning it down really low, because you can add your color first to it. Once it starts melting good, you can actually start stirring it to help it melt. Once your wax is completely melted, then you can start adding your wax dye to it. And you don't necessarily have to use all of it that I gave to you. Just add a little bit and stir it and look and see what it looks like, and keep adding it until it gets to about the color that you would like it to. Just keep in mind that when it actually dries, I'm going to show you. This was a purple one. The bottom is mostly purple. I did purple and then another color. It's going to look a little bit different once it dries. It's going to have more of an opaque look to it. And that's the sticker in the middle, so you can't... I'm showing the bottom because it's more color there. But it's going to have more of an opaque look to it. And I think that was 2 scoops of the powder that I gave you. And I think I gave you all about that much. So do that first once the the wax is completely melted. I think I'm going to try stirring mine just a little bit. Even though my water has not started boiling yet, but my wax is melting. So I'm going to stir it. And actually the rim of this is not hot, so I'm not burning myself with this. So I'm going to help this melt. It has to get to a certain temperature that, for you to start adding your stuff to it to make sure that it's good and melted. Okay, I'm going to let mine melt some more. But you want to add your color first and then stir it in really good. Once you've got that stirred in good, don't automatically put your essential oil in yet, because if it's too hot, the essential oil will burn off and evaporate. So it's a good idea to let it kind of start cooling some before you add your essential oil to it. Let it cool off a little bit. That's why it's good to kind of either turn down your burner or turn it completely off once the water is boiling good, because you don't want it to get too hot for the essential oil. If you have a candy thermometer, that would be awesome. You could put it in there in the water area to see what the temperature is, and if it's around 120, that's where you want the temperature to be when you add your essential oil. But since not everyone may have one, then that's why I was saying to just turn it off after it starts boiling, or turn it down really low to keep it from getting too hot. Because for this particular wax, 130 is, I think it was 130 is the melting point of this wax. So you want it to cool off a little bit below the melting point before you put your essential oil in there. I've got little chunks still in there. My water has never actually boiled. It's gotten hot and has little bubbles on the bottom, but alright, so looks like I'm going to turn I think it turned itself off, but I'm going to turn this burner off. And all of my wax has actually melted. So I'm going to add my powder to it. Let's see here. I'm going to give myself about a size scoop that I gave you guys. And I'm going to mix it in. Mine is actually, the color I added is called coffee, but it's kind of like it actually reflects different colors. It looks brown, but it's kind of reflective too. It's kind of metallic. I think some of the ones that I gave y'all are metallic. So you want to really stir that in. This is going to be a really dark color. I may have gave y'all a little too much of the dye, but if you want a really dark candle, then that would be fine. Let's see. You want to make sure there's no little pieces still floating around in it. Because at the temperature, you just want it melted for the color. You don't really have to have it cool off any for that. Just making sure. Let's see, I'm tilting mine a little bit towards me so I can see if I see anything floating around. Oh, that looks interesting. My stick does not seem to be getting any like residue, like clumps on it, so I'm thinking that's nice and mixed. I'm gonna tap that off, and do I have bubbles in there? I don't know what. It's kind of making it move around on its inside on its own. Alright, I think that looks pretty good, and I'm hoping my temperature is cooled off enough. She recommended putting, as far as drops of essential oil in there, she recommended 10 to 12. And when I did that on mine, I think I did more than that, and I could barely smell it. So when I went online and was reading some other people's recommendations, they said 20 to 30 drops. So that's what I'm going to do this time, is about 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. 30. Okay. I didn't realize I didn't have to shake that. I'm just holding it that direction actually made it come out good. Alright, so I'm going to stir that in. Ooh, I really smell that. The one that I decided to use was this one. And I think this is one of the ones I gave somebody. And I think I put VT on their little vial. So, actually I think that was Reggie. I think that's what I gave him. Alrighty, wow, that really smells. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of my stick. Lay that off to the side, and I'm going to get my two, let's see how hot. Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to pick this up, and I'm going to use some paper towels to catch the water. It's on the bottom. I'm going to be careful not to touch too closely to not burn myself. I just don't want to drip water everywhere. Actually, that's not too terribly hot. I'm going to move it over here, and then I'm going to switch the camera, and I'm hoping that I can, oh wow, this is not going to work. Okay, so I'm going to do something different so you guys can see what I'm doing. If this will cooperate, yay, let's turn this around this way. Alright, so I want you to see what I'm doing.
Sure.
This is in camera, and I would recommend going ahead and using something to hold this with. And then you're just gonna, when you're pouring it, you want to pour it to that line, this line right here, which is an inch below. Alright, so that is an inch. I'm going to wipe off. Do not pour the excess wax down your